Welcome old family and new family to BoomBappED, capital ED. I'm one of your hosts with the most, Brandon White, aka Bushido Garvey.
What's happening, Rochester? This is Aaron Thompson, Atlas.
Yes, and we got brother Rob Lowe on the tech, quote unquote. And we have the pleasure of having an awesome guest in the building. It is the activist, it is the nutritionist, it is the educator, Miss Jessica Coleman.
Thanks. That was, I think, more than I deserve, but thank you.
Welcome to the show, for sure. For those who don't know, BoomBappED is an honest, open, and clear-headed exploration of education and cultural issues focused on, but not limited to, the Rochester area through a hip-hop lens. So, what we typically do when we start the show off is we ask folks just to run down their resume a little bit, run down the things that they've done, the places they've been, what you've done professionally, and what makes you tick outside of your work.
Cool. So I have been, I guess you use the word activist. I was like a little mini activist as a kid, not super voluntarily, but my mom was very active in our neighborhood and in our school.
Peace to Mrs. Coleman.
All right. And so she used to, like, the corner store near our school, you know, there was some worry of some illegal activity going on in there. And so she gathered, you know, some parents in the neighborhood and took us out, like, protesting this corner store that we all loved to shop at. You know, like, we were still getting our, you know, 5-cent penny candy, you know, from the store behind her back. But so it started kind of young for me. I saw that that belief and that energy in community was instilled really young, seeing that in my mom. And even though, like, at that time there was some, like, resentment around it, just because, like, I like this store, could we not, like, pick it outside of it? But it did. It set that kind of foundation for me. So in school I studied Black Studies and Women's Studies, and when I came out I wanted to help Black folk, you know, and I didn't really know what that meant exactly. So it's just been a lot of different community positions in the community, and education is always at the foundation of everything that I've done. So you know, I've worked at the YMCA, after school program. I worked CP Rochester is it serves people with developmental disabilities, which is like a huge helped me learn a lot about myself and my ability to educate. When you're working with people who, like, can't speak, a lot of them, you know, can't even say words to show you that they are, like, learning from the things that you're trying to teach them. You mentioned the nutrition. I worked as a nutrition health educator for a little bit, and from there I went to Center for Youth. You know, the rite of passage for a lot of us. And so I was working with young moms there, and from that position transitioned over to what I'm doing now, which is sexual health education. And of course, you know that Freedom School till I die. I know, I was like, it's a cherry on top right there, you know?
Indeed.
Freedom School shaped so much of, like, my educational approach. Yeah, I'm looking at your shirt and just thinking of, like, our cheers and chants. And Freedom School is, like, has a huge warm spot in my heart. I was in my senior year of undergrad, home for Christmas break. And I went to this community meeting talking about suspension rates. And I remember, like, going to this meeting, and I looked in the front row, and there were all these young people in the front row, like teenagers. I was like, this is a Thursday night, like 7 o'clock on a Thursday night. What are they doing here? And so I turned to my mom. I was like, Mom, who are those people? You know, why are these children here? Why do they care? And she told me, you know, she recognized George Moses and told me about the Freedom School. I, like, approached him right after, like, how do I know more, you know? And George, you know, he invited me to come the next day. And I went, I saw Harambe, and it was like, yeah, that was a life-changing moment for me. Like, I knew I wanted to be a part of that.
School like Freedom School. It's reading books, really cool.
Dropping
You're
jewels.
making it sound so corny.
So, Jess, we've established that you held a number of different roles, positions, jobs, activist, busybody. And I say that in the best way. What's a hip-hop artist that helps to fuel your work, either in terms of motivating you, that you turn to for motivation, or that you use in some aspect of the work that you're doing?
Yeah, so I don't know why this is what comes to mind. I will say the hip-hop aspect of this show, I was feeling the least confident about.
All good.
Because, you know, I love hip-hop, and it moves me. I'm not great with like artist names. And,
Yeah.
I'm like, this feels good. That's the kind of listener I am. But what comes to mind when you ask that question is like MC Light. Like I just want to be like bad. Like I am the light. Like but like just like that energy. So
True.
that's what came to mind.
Strong woman right there. She's like, you know what I mean? Take no nonsense.
That assertion. Yeah, no, for sure. So continuing with the education piece, right? And what fuels you. What information are you providing now through your work that wasn't provided to you through your education? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a good question. So now I'm doing sexual health education, and like at its core, the grants that I work under are meant to address unintended teen pregnancy. Rochester historically has like really high rates, and even still today, our rates are higher than like state and national rates and county rates. Like if you break down county, city versus suburb, we're definitely higher. But we also have gone down a lot in the last decade or so. I would say largely due to programs that exist like the one that I work in. But so like trying to get kids to wear condoms and like do these like things that make sense. But for me, like what's really important in the education that I give is like talking about consent and talking about like understanding your partner and where they are, and like it's not just about like wear condoms, get tested, and those like I really try to infuse. I have kids a lot get into these like male female dynamics and like like really kind of to me like barbaric gender role kind of stuff, and I find it my duty to challenge those things. I think that was somewhat devoid in my upbringing. I think I didn't have that wherewithal to like challenge those kind of ideas, and I definitely think that the generation that was educating me and my peers wasn't doing a whole lot about that.
For sure. Yeah, no, that made me think about that just because when you're working in the schools, and Rob knows this because we see it at our school all the time. That toxic dynamic that you're talking about, like, and that isn't covered in health. Like,
right.
That's not part of the health curriculum, for
right.
sure.
So you've worked as a nutritionist or in nutrition, right?
Yep.
Okay. So that's an area that I will admit I am struggling with, trying to reform my behavior around. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, though, are there aspects of what you know and were teaching that you struggled to implement in your own life?
Yes, of course.
Talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, absolutely. That. So there's always like levels, right? So what I was teaching was like some like FDA approved, like, so just off the strength of that, I had some issues with it because I like FDA ain't approving all the best of stuff, True. Are we allowed to say stuff like that out here?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So we don't want to get y'all in trouble. So but at the same time, like looking at like balance in your diet, like that was stress. I think that they like went a little too like meat, for instance. Actually, no, I will say. So like one of the things that we would do in the class, we would like talk about size, like portion sizes. So like in our country, like a portion size of meat is like a plate, an entire plate, and like so we would try to get people to realize that like your palm is like actually a portion size of meat. Yeah, so like if you're talking about so if you're talking about meat, we're looking at like maybe 2 hamburgers a day, like a chicken cutlet, and and so trying to get people to think of it in that way. So yeah, I guess that was actually like not that bad. I was hating for a second, but so for me, I have always had like a sugar. I love candy.
Oh yeah.
So that is like probably one of the biggest challenges with my nutritional behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried that vegan thing for a little bit, and
so you skipped the vegetarian and went for the vegan.
Interesting, right? So I was vegetarian for 3 years, and then I was dating someone who was eating chicken wings in front of me, and I was like, ain't them look good. He was like, eat some. I was like, you know what? It's a good point, sir.
You had me at eat them.
Yeah, I just threw it all out the door. So I don't eat pork or beef, but I go back and forth between like poultry, and I've never really liked fish. But so I was like dating a vegan, and I was like, I'll try it again. And I went, I just went straight vegan instead of like doing the ease in. So like one of my like bad habits, but great habit is like the vegan donuts.
There's a such thing as a vegan donut.
Yeah, am I allowed to drop?
Word.
that?
You can just say where they are.
Yeah,
You can't make calls to actions at this station. Peace to 104.3 Whale FM. But we can state where things are.
Yeah, it's a matter of fact.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely in that Center for Youth neighborhood, Monroe Ave, there is an amazing vegan donut spot.
And that's what they specialize in? Vegan
Yeah,
donut?
and their
Okay.
cinnamon rolls.
All right.
You ain't never had nothing like it, man. And the great thing about vegan is, I mean, again, this is not about being healthy. Let me just be clear about that. This is total junk food. But the good thing about vegan food is there's no egg in it. So you can just make up some... I don't even want to admit what I'm about to say. One time I made some vegan cake batter and just ate it.
Didn't even make it to the oven.
It didn't.
Didn't fluff, didn't do
A
nothing.
few days though. Straight judge me.
That makes it more justifiable for sure. If you had to put in all that old school work to create some batter, that's crazy. It's days? That's crazy.
You know what? I shouldn't even have mentioned it anyway, but there's no eggs, so I'm not gonna die. So
That's right.
True that.
So, we talked about food nutrition a bit, right? And we talked about what feels good for music, right? Are there any parallels that you recognize between food nutrition and what it does for the body and what music nutrition does for the spirit or the soul or the mind or whatever?
Yeah, totally. I'm I like believe strongly in like alternatives to medicine and I mean, so music I feel like is there to like help us through situations, help us work through situations. I was talking about like playing rugby as like a form of therapy for me for a minute. I remember when I was like middle school, I just listened to like foul stuff, but it fueled me, I don't know, like you're feeling that angst and it's like, like I can't relate to DMX's lifestyle, but like, when I listen to that music, it's like, yes, and it does something, and like to just feel that like that relation, whether it's like through the lyrics, the sounds, or like connecting with other people who are connecting with that music, it just does something to you, and it, at the very least, if it's that feeling of just not being alone in the world, through that connection.
Just kind of piggybacking off my man Bushido's question, do you have like a playlist or anything that you pop in for a certain to get yourself to a certain vibe or mind state or anything like that? Yeah,
so currently I'm applying to a master's program, and so my current vibe right now is I need music that I can like do my application and not get like too distracted. So that the Gold Link.
Yeah.
There's this one Gold Link song, Pray Every Day, that I honestly, like when I was doing an application a few months ago, like I have no idea how many times I've listened to that song. It just like goes on repeat because like it just feels good. I'll be like in a coffee shop like, right. And then FKJ. So
you put me on a little bit right here.
Yeah.
I'm not hip to FKJ,
Yeah, so FKJ is not like, he plays the sax, I think. I don't know, it's like this like real mellow vibe, and you could just listen to a whole album. And again, it's like background music, but I can still do what I'm doing. So that's my go-to right now because I need to focus. This application is due next week. So
I hear you.
Got that GRE coming up. But yeah,
making moves. So you have worked as mentioned previously for a number of different organizations. Local based, local focused, and I'm wondering if you can talk about any patterns of behavior that you observed in these organizations in terms of how they collaborated with others locally, because some people will describe like the Rochester scene in different ways, kind of silos of activity and whatnot. So what are some of the good and some of the bad that you've seen in the different places that you've worked in terms of how they interact with and collaborate cross-organizationally?
Yeah, I was definitely thinking that. So I do see a lot there. Rochester is like resource rich. There's like so many resources in Rochester, but they often, like a lot of them do work kind of in their own lane. And what I've found, especially being at so many of them, is, it's definitely a plus because people like me. But I honestly think that is like a huge part of how stuff works here, is like knowing people and being, I can vouch for somebody else, to try to get them into a space and stuff like that, or to get myself into a space. Doing sexual health education, you're not always invited right, through the front door. A lot of people have that, pushback to that subject matter. And so I like try to find that like person within the realm that I know personally and kind of like ease some of that.
Cut through.
Yeah. Or, like talking to parents and trying to get them to understand the value in what we do. And then the other thing is like, there's this like creation of competition because most
creation of competition.
Yeah, most of us are like going for like grants and stuff, So it's like, love ya, but I want that money. I want my program to survive.
That's real.
Intentional or unintentional? This creation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or both.
I think it could be either. There's Rochester we some haters a little bit. At times. I'm not saying that's like across the board.
It's real.
But that exists, and so sometimes you definitely. Always. I think you're always gonna look out for self. So. Whether it's because you don't like somebody or not, like you still gonna try to get that money,
For sure. Word up.
All right. This segment we're about to get into right now is called "You Can Get With This" or "You Can Get With That." Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna run a couple of 5 actually scenarios past you. I want you to let us know if you're getting with the first or the second.
Okay.
And a little bit of why. All right.
Okay.
First one, and maybe actually we can toss these back and forth if you want, Prosciutto.
That sounds good to me, a little cipher.
That's what it is. All right, first one is acquiring info via video or via literature. Get with this or get with that. Break it down.
Oh God, I'm a horrible educator. So I'll take the video, man. I want it straightforward. So I also part of that is for me, I've always struggled with reading, and I've struggled with education because of that, which is kind of part of why I want to pursue like a further, advanced degree, is to show people like me who do struggle with that is possible. The other thing is I really connect with humans, and so I learn so much from that connection. So, my preference is like to talk to somebody, especially even if it's about a book, like you like ease me into it with like, get me to understand like why I need to get into that book, like is much more likely. So like I think with a video that can give me kind of the baseline to then be like, I got to learn more about this,
Okay, valid.
Jay-Z or Nas? Get with this or get with that?
Oh. Ugh, okay. I'm from Rochester, so I'm a hater.
Wow.
So like when I was growing up, it was just straight up Jay-Z, because that's like what everybody else was, was like, yeah, forget Nas, and I think I've kind of grown beyond that, and I have some level of hate with Jay-Z and Beyonce. Don't kill me. I shouldn't have said that out loud. I shouldn't. Yeah, that wasn't even the question.
They Hive's gonna be on you.
Yeah. So I can respect the craft, but I don't know. There's this part of me that. I don't know if I want to work on this or not, but like, oh, you're not doing enough, and I appreciate like Nas's addressing of issues from like long before, where like now Beyonce and Jay-Z are like all the way black, and it's like, oh, that's cute,
Yeah, yep. No, for sure. That's something that I always thought about too. I'm grateful whenever stuff like that happens in general, but like I'm not gonna pretend to not see the fact that during the BLM era, this is what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So, for sure.
All right, how about this? Educating youth or educating adults?
Okay.
This or that?
Yeah, youth are my heart. Again, because of like the ways that I struggled when I was younger, I just want to show them like there's so much more. And also a lot of those, the like gender dynamics and stuff like that really bother me a lot. It's coming from the older ones. And these young kids are like so much better than us. They're going beyond so many like standards as far as like gender, sexuality, sexual orientation, stuff, and it's like, let me just like chill with them because they make me like feel accepted, for who I am. And they're like, so I like that. And I also, for the ones who aren't there yet, I feel like that's a place to challenge those kind of notions. So I definitely youth, if I gotta pick,
right.
But also like still like challenging these adults and trying to get them to be better models for our kids.
I appreciate you respecting the format, saying, if I had to choose one, it would be the youth. But you're recognizing, though, that it can't stop with them, because even if you're getting through to them, they're going home to the environment where they're having, there's pushback there, you know what I mean? Unless you're dealing with the adults, too.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
That's
both and.
Working in groups or working individually? This or that?
Yeah. I'm probably like I definitely lean more to the individual. I don't trust people to do stuff as good as I will.
Get that.
I like how you just like took that.
I get that. I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm just like so. I'm very particular and yeah. I mean, it's a problem though, because like groups are much more helpful. But I like have you like let people you like accept the help, and then it's like, oh, you didn't like put that, you didn't write a line that it was supposed to, you centered it was supposed to write a line, I don't know, stuff like that. It's ridiculous to get so obsessed with stuff like that, but
And I mean, groups are made up of individuals. You hit up enough of them to get enough minds of individuals working with you, and you got the group. You watch much in the way of TV? Keeping up with the current series that are on?
it definitely depends on what series we're
All
talking
right.
about.
Well, check this out. You're gonna get with Atlanta or Empire?
Okay, if you're giving me either or, I'm gonna go Atlanta.
You gotta break it down. Why?
Jess?
Yeah, so definitely not. Empire, I guess, is really the long and short of it. I'm a hater, and
She's embracing this hater.
I know.
identity.
I mean, that's my role. Like I've heard you guys ask other people, and I was already preparing myself for this question. But like what your role in art is, and you kind of did, and I skipped over it. But my role is like to critique, because I'm a hater, But no, I don't like actively participate a lot in creating art. But I love taking it in. And I'll like hear things and be like, oh, like I think of like ways that it could be worded differently. Like I have like that kind of editor mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And then it tells me like, you can do this. If you can hate on them, you could probably do this. But I just keep hating. But anyway, so Donald Glover, I just don't think he's like perfect, and he likes.
You think he is perfect?
I do
or,
not.
Okay. I do not.
No,
Okay.
And so I don't know. I watched a little bit of Atlanta, and then like watched him say some stuff about like Black women and Asian women, and I was like, meh.
Oh,
Wait,
for
what
real?
did he say?
I don't know.
I might
Like
have missed this.
something around like that he doesn't lean toward Black women, and I'm just
real?
hating. And I don't even remember the details. I just remember in my heart, I was like, I'm done.
That Genesee River water, that's what it
It polluted my soul.
is. For sure. Well, before we close every single show, we know Childish Gambino might not be one of your top 5 MCs, but before we close every single show, we ask people, what are their top 5? Now, if they don't all end up being MCs, that's okay, because we know that you just talked about how, like, you more identify with the feeling as opposed to, being able to, name the person or the group. So what are your top 5 MCs and or musical acts?
Okay. All right. So I will say Dead Prez.
You're second person.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's like a given, and that's easy, and then the rest is like just I haven't listened to a lot of NPR recently because young people's music has been hurting me a little bit. So I'm like off my game. I watched an episode. How did I not prepare for this? Okay, so let's see.
It doesn't have to be MC.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of go to like kind of like middle school, high school, Jess. Okay, so Mason Betha.
Oh, okay. All right.
Check out the government.
And this was in the shiny suit era, Mace.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Harlem World.
Harlem World.
Okay, and then I'll say DMX like that. Those like old Rough Riders albums, just I used to like listen to Maxwell like to no end back in the day. And I actually prefer like those old albums to the newer stuff, but I love Maxwell.
That's such a difference. You go from DMX to Maxwell. Can you imagine a duo?
I was such a confused child.
Can you imagine a duo? Pretty wings. Yeah, that'd be so crazy.
I was so bad at the bark. Oh my god, you sound like a chihuahua. Let's see. Oh my goodness. I'm thinking I don't want to say it out loud, but like the Master P and like Silk and all of that.
No Limit Soldiers.
Yeah.
No Limit. Why did I couldn't come to the
Silk Shaka. Indeed. That's what's up. So we got Mason Betha.
Oh my god, this is the worst.
DMX.
List. Don't
Dead
edit this.
Prez.
Maxwell. Maxwell's in a room with these guys looking around like, how did I get here?
And then Silk the Shocker / Master P. Why the No Limit Army?
Again, it was just that feeling of like, I'm gonna be mad stupid, like, I'm gonna make it like, I don't know. There's no lyrics coming out of my mouth, but.
Well, Silk the Shocker's flow, it was a little hard to follow sometimes, so it's understandable if you don't recall immediately because there was a lot coming out of his mouth, and then with Master P, there wasn't a whole lot of words, but it still wasn't really hard to. When you look back now, do you feel like that era was judged too hard, like the No Limit and Cash Money, or do you feel like,
Yeah, I do. I mean, I do, and also like we're doing it now, like with the Fetty Waps and stuff. And like it's just what happens, like that's naturally what happens. Older folks are like, this is trash, and the young ones are like, I feel this, so I got no shame around feeling it, but I mean, I now as an adult can look and be like, what? Jess.
I mean, there's always great nostalgia with that stuff. I remember I wanted that album so bad, NP The Last Dawn. I wanted that album so bad, but didn't get it. Instead, I think Cash Money started to get to me a little bit, right? Because there was a little battle between those two. That's right, Weezy. Oh, how about this for this or that real quick? Old Weezy or new Weezy?
Word?
Oh.
Yeah, I mean,
Interesting.
I don't know. I just love that, like, that old trash music. Like,
You know what's funny though? To me, he's developed as a. We talking about Wayne, right?
Yeah.
He's developed as a lyricist though, like, or maybe I just wasn't hip. But
yeah, no, I think that's true. I just like trash music.
Yeah.
We not established this. Like,
Right.
I will argue, and Rob might argue too, given the opportunity, that I feel like Wayne as a lyricist, overall lyricist, was more dynamic pre this new era. And maybe like his wordsmithing is better this time, but overall lyricist with the cadence and the melody, and even, he still had some bars back then. I don't know who was writing them, but what do you say? All this ice that I'm carrying, so many carrots, you think I'm some kind of vegetarian? Like, he was still spitting.
I love music that like really says, I am from this place.
Yeah.
And like in how,
Right.
in how you like put it out there,
For sure.
What's the last? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, my fault. I was about to close.
Right on time,
You
brother.
good? You good? Okay. Jess, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for
for
having
joining
me.
us. It was a great conversation.
True indeed.
For those who are listening, you're listening to BoomBappED, capital ED. We are on from 1:30 to 2 o'clock.
There it is.
Tuesdays on Wayo FM. We have a Facebook group. Check us out as well. Peace.
Peace, y'all.
Bye.